They found fame digging through forgotten lockers. But what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? In 2025, Storage Wars returned with shocking comebacks, silent exits, and behind-the-scenes truths no one saw coming. From Dave Hester's post-stroke return to Brandi Passante's dramatic reinvention, the original crew faced heartbreak, lawsuits, and unexpected new chapters. Some vanished. Others fought back. One legend even turned pain into power. This is the real story. What really happened to the Storage Wars crew and where they are now. Season 16. The Return of the Legends. In June 2025, Storage Wars came roaring back to life. After a multi-year lull and whispers of cancellation, A&E announced the revival of the series with Season 16, and it came with major upgrades. For the first time in the show's history, each episode expanded to a full hour, allowing fans to dig deeper than ever before into the finds, the rivalries, and the personalities behind the bidding paddles. This wasn't just a reboot, it was a reunion. Brandi Passante, Dave Hester, Kenny Crossley, Ivy Calvin, Renee and Casey Nazoda, Lisa Delarios, and Dusty Riach all returned. And of course, Dan and Laura Dotson, the auctioneering power couple, remained front and center, giving the show its familiar rhythm and banter. The longer episodes didn't just mean more junk or more jokes, it meant more emotion. With extended screen time, viewers got to see what happens before and after the hammer drops. The strategy sessions, the moments of hesitation, the behind-the-scenes tension that had always been hinted at, but never fully shown. And nostalgia? It hit hard. Fans who had followed the show since its 2010 debut found comfort in the familiar faces and rhythms. Many hadn't tuned in for years, but when Season 16 premiered, they came back in droves. Viewership surged, particularly among millennials who had grown up watching Brandi and Jared argue their way to profit. More than anything, Season 16 proved that people still care. About the lockers, yes, but more importantly, about the people who open them. In an era where reality TV often feels manufactured, Storage Wars gave us something that felt like it never left. The hunt was back on, and it was better than ever. Dave Hester's shocking comeback. For years, fans assumed they'd seen the last of Dave Hester, the man behind the show's most famous battle cry, "Yup!" After suffering a serious stroke in 2018, Hester quietly disappeared from public life. Rumors swirled. Some said he'd retired. Others said he wasn't well enough to return. No one expected him to show up again, until he did. When Season 16 kicked off, viewers were stunned to see Dave walk onto the auction lot. Alive, upright, and bidding like he never left. His return wasn't teased in promos. There was no press buildup. It was a surprise drop, and it sent shockwaves through the fandom. The recovery journey wasn't easy. Hester later revealed he'd spent months in physical therapy, relearning how to walk, speak, and function. Doctors doubted he'd ever fully recover, but he proved them wrong. His return wasn't just for the cameras, it was personal. It was a reclaiming of identity, of strength, and of the career that made him famous. Behind the scenes, producers leaned hard into the drama. Dave wasn't just another returning cast member, he was the comeback story. His presence added gravitas to the season, especially given the show's focus on legacy and second chances. But Dave didn't return mellowed out. He was still sharp, still sarcastic, and still competitive. "Yup!" echoed once again across the storage yards, reigniting rivalries and rattling nerves. And that's exactly what the show needed. For fans, Hester's reappearance was more than nostalgic. It was inspiring. Watching a man bounce back from a health crisis and step into the ring again resonated with people. It reminded viewers that resilience isn't just a story, it's a choice. And Dave Hester made his. Dave versus everyone. Dave Hester didn't walk back into a warm welcome. His return stirred up a storm of old drama and long-buried resentment. While some fans cheered, many of his fellow cast members were less enthusiastic. Brandi Passante, Renee Nazoda, and Ivy Calvin all had complicated histories with Hester. Back in earlier seasons, Dave's competitive style often rubbed people the wrong way. He was brash, he undercut bids, and he wasn't afraid to play dirty. Add in past legal spats and on-air verbal battles, and it's no wonder his reappearance sent chills through the lot. Production sources revealed that behind the cameras, the mood was tense. Some cast members reportedly refused to film with Dave in the same scene. Others kept their distance, making it clear that old wounds hadn't healed. There were awkward silences, glares, conversations cut short. And yet, producers didn't back off. They leaned in. They knew this tension was television gold. Season 16's early episodes teased it, showing uncomfortable group shots and strategic editing that let the Cold War play out on screen. The audience could feel the discomfort, and that made it all the more gripping. "We're not friends. We never were," Renee allegedly said off-camera. That quote, shared in fan forums, quickly went viral. Dave's presence reopened questions about what the show really is, entertainment or real life. In this case, it was both. The bitterness was genuine, and viewers could tell. That authenticity, even when messy, kept fans coming back every week. The tension wasn't just for drama, it was part of the story. Dave had returned, but he didn't come back to applause. He came back to a battlefield. The comic tactician. In a show full of sharp elbows and high-stakes bidding, Kenny Crossley plays a different game. With his booming laugh, wild outfits, and unpredictable energy, Kenny brings something rare to Storage Wars: joy. But don't let the clown mask fool you. Underneath the jokes is a ruthless strategist who knows exactly what he's doing. In interviews, Kenny admitted that his entire persona is a psychological tool. When other bidders are tense, angry, or focused, Kenny throws them off with laughter, silly dances, or absurd commentary. It's not just entertainment, it's a tactic. If you're laughing, you're not thinking clearly. And if you're not thinking clearly, Kenny just might outbid you. "I learned real quick that making people laugh gives you power," he once said. "They stop watching your hands." He often buys lockers that others walk away from, seeing value in chaos. And he's been right, again and again. Kenny has scored big with comic books, electronics, rare vinyl, and even a few surprising celebrity items. His reputation as the wild card bidder has made him a fan favorite, especially among younger viewers and social media circles. His online following is huge, and that momentum has helped the show modernize. Kenny's clips often go viral, and his one-liners have become memes. Fans call him the soul of the show, and in many ways, he is. In a cast full of grizzled veterans and real tension, Kenny is the audience's release valve. But beneath the surface, he's more than comic relief. He's a serious player, hiding his strategy behind a joke. From reality star to podcaster. By 2025, Brandi Passante was no longer just a reality TV personality. She had become something much bigger. A survivor, a solo parent, a voice of authenticity, and now a podcaster. In June 2025, Brandi launched The Real Reality with Brandi Passante, a raw and revealing podcast that strips away the gloss of fame and dives into the truth behind the camera. She promised unfiltered conversations, deep dives into the industry, and stories no one ever dared to tell. This wasn't just a vanity project, it was personal. Brandi opened up about her abusive childhood, her complicated breakup with Jared, her battles as a single mom, and her years of quietly holding the show together while everything around her cracked. Listeners were floored, not just by her honesty, but by her clarity. "I spent years being told who I was supposed to be," she said in the first episode. "Now, I'm going to tell you who I really am." The podcast immediately drew attention. Fans praised her honesty. Critics admired her bravery. And industry insiders quietly acknowledged what many had suspected, that Brandi had always been the real anchor of Storage Wars. She also used the podcast to uplift others, survivors, working moms, and those who've been overlooked. Each episode tackled something different: reality TV manipulation, mental health, the price of fame, and how women can rebuild after public collapse. With Season 16 airing in parallel, the podcast gave fans a deeper, more human connection to the person behind the screen. Brandi was no longer just the woman with the best poker face in the business. She was the woman finally playing her own hand. A survivor's legacy. He was once the loudest voice in the room, the man with the cowboy shirts, the big bets, and the even bigger wins. Daryl Sheets, known as The Gambler, was one of Storage Wars' most unforgettable originals. But after 2 heart attacks, the man who once bragged about finding a $300,000 locker made a quiet exit. And fans were left wondering, what happened to Daryl? Daryl last appeared regularly in Season 14, and even then, his screen time was limited. After a serious health scare in 2019, he stepped away from the cameras and the chaos. It wasn't just about physical recovery, it was about slowing down after decades of living on the edge. Updates from his son. Brandon and former castmates revealed that Daryl had moved to Arizona and focused on a slower lifestyle: fishing, family, and faith. The man once chasing million-dollar units now seemed content with peace. That doesn't mean fans forgot him. He's still a legend. Daryl's finds were the stuff of Storage Wars folklore: art collections, celebrity memorabilia, and jaw-dropping flips that made jaws drop across the country. His big-hearted attitude, emotional reactions, and gambling nature made him a fan favorite from day one. Season 16 included a brief tribute, a flashback montage, a moment of reflection from Dan and Laura, and a voiceover celebrating his contribution. He didn't need to return to be remembered. In many ways, Daryl represents what Storage Wars is really about. Not just profit, but risk, resilience, and real-life consequences. He showed what happens when the cameras turn off, and life demands more than a good bid. Gunter Nazota's farewell. In March 2023, fans of Storage Wars were hit with devastating news. Gunter Nazota, father of Renee, passed away from lung cancer at age 67. Known for his gentle smile, thick accent, and supportive presence, Gunter wasn't a headline maker, but he was a heart behind the scenes. Gunter appeared in several seasons alongside his son Renee. The two had a special chemistry. Gunter wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't crave screen time, but every time he showed up, carrying boxes, cracking dad jokes, fans noticed. He grounded the show. He made it feel like family. His passing was acknowledged both privately and publicly. Renee posted a tearful tribute online, saying his dad had passed peacefully and that he was the best dad and grandfather you could ever ask for. The reaction was overwhelming. Fans across the globe flooded social media with condolences, memories, and appreciation for a man who brought warmth to a show built on competition. In season 16, A&E aired a short in memoriam segment, showing clips of Gunter laughing, helping Renee, and sharing quiet moments on the lot. There were no flashy graphics, just a name, a date, and silence. "He wasn't just my dad," Renee said. "He was my partner, my friend, and my hero." Gunter's absence is still felt. Every time Renee opens a locker now, it feels different. Like a voice is missing, a presence, a quiet strength. But in many ways, Gunter's legacy lives on, not just through his son, but through the spirit he brought to the show. Where's Barry Weiss? He was the coolest guy on the show, always arriving in a vintage hot rod, rocking sunglasses, and tossing out one-liners like a retired rock star. Barry Weiss, known to fans as the Collector, was Storage Wars' wildcard, eccentric, hilarious, unpredictable. And then, he vanished. Barry left after season 4, citing the desire to step away from TV and live a quieter life. But in 2019, tragedy struck. He suffered serious injuries in a motorcycle crash. Broken bones, chest trauma, multiple surgeries. The man who once chased antique treasures was now fighting for his life. Since then, fans have held their breath, waiting for signs of a comeback. And every season, rumors swirl. Barry's face pops up in teasers. His name trends on Twitter. But as of 2025, there's still no confirmed return. So where is he? Friends say Barry's been keeping a low profile, focusing on his health and spending time with family. He's occasionally spotted at collector events in California, still sharp, still stylish, but camera shy. He's not on social media. He doesn't do interviews. It's like he vanished on purpose. And maybe that's the point. Barry was never in it for fame. He didn't need the show. He didn't even need the money. He did it for fun, for the thrill of the hunt. And when it stopped being fun, he walked away. He was the soul of the show, one fan wrote. Without Barry, it was never quite the same. Whether or not Barry Weiss ever returns, his legend is secure. His finds were wild. His vibe was unmatched. And his exit, mysterious, classy, and final, was somehow the most Barry thing of all. Lawsuits, planting, and the reality behind the show. In 2012, the biggest twist didn't come from a locker. It came from a courtroom. Dave Hester, the show's most controversial bidder, filed a lawsuit that shook Storage Wars to its core. His claim? The show was fake, rigged, staged. According to Hester, producers were planting valuable items inside lockers before filming. BMWs, rare newspapers, gold coins, all carefully placed to boost drama and ratings. And Hester had receipts. Literally, emails, prop rentals, and even reimbursement checks began to surface. Cast members, including Brandi and Jared, were allegedly asked to supply flashy items in exchange for a fee. These items would be discovered on camera. It wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was evidence. The lawsuit dragged on, with parts dismissed and other claims quietly settled. But the damage was done. Fans started asking hard questions. How much of what we saw was real? How much was theater? Even worse, the lawsuit claimed the show might have violated federal laws, including the Communications Act of 1934, which bans the rigging of contests or broadcasts. A&E denied wrongdoing, but trust was shaken. For a show built on the idea of finding treasure in forgotten places, The lawsuit made viewers wonder if the treasure had ever really been lost at all. Some cast members denied involvement. Others stayed silent. And the editors? They kept cutting, splicing, and building stories out of fragments. "It's entertainment," one insider said, "not journalism." Still, the line had been crossed. And from that point forward, the magic of Storage Wars always came with a question mark: the show's global evolution. Storage Wars started as a quirky little A&E show back in 2010. A few grumpy bidders, a couple of rusty lockers. Nobody expected it to last. And yet, it became a global phenomenon. By 2025, the franchise has aired in over 220 countries and inspired spin-offs in the UK, Canada, and even South Africa. From Storage Wars, Texas to Storage Wars, Canada, the format proved universal, because no matter where you live, the thrill of finding hidden treasure is timeless. Season 16 reflects this evolution. The episodes are longer. The production values are higher. There's more emotional storytelling, deeper character arcs, and an obvious effort to modernize the brand. Social media plays a major role now. Every auction has hashtags, fan polls, and instant reactions online. YouTube edits, TikTok clips, Reddit theories. Storage Wars has found new life in the digital age. A&E executives know the show can't coast on nostalgia forever. They've started testing new concepts, hybrid episodes featuring online-only bidders, celebrity guests, even live auctions broadcast in real time. The goal? Keep it fresh without losing the soul. Still, the essence remains: the hope, the gamble, the sound of a metal door rolling up and the silence that follows, the mystery of what's inside. And in a world of scripted drama, Storage Wars, even with its flaws, remains one of the few reality shows still fighting to keep some reality intact. Brandi and Jared, from power duo to silent war. For over a decade, Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz weren't just castmates. They were Storage Wars' golden couple. Young, bold, unfiltered. They fought, they laughed, they bid together. Fans loved them not just for their locker smarts, but because they felt real. But behind the scenes, everything was falling apart. After season 12, Brandi and Jared quietly split. No press release, no public drama, just silence. For almost 2 years, they kept filming together, pretending nothing had changed. But eagle-eyed fans noticed less interaction, colder glances, fewer smiles. Then, in season 13, the truth exploded on screen. Brandi and Jared were no longer partners. They were rivals, openly bidding against each other. Brandi called him an idiot. Jared took jabs just to provoke her. The tension wasn't staged. It was raw and uncomfortable. And then it got worse. In May 2021, Jared was charged with misdemeanor domestic battery after allegedly pushing Brandi during a bar altercation. According to reports, Brandi had asked him to leave. He refused. Witnesses said things got heated. Police were called. Jared denied touching her, but the charge was filed. Suddenly, what once looked like a quirky breakup became something darker. Fans reevaluated everything they'd seen. The jokes, the tension, the distance. Had it all been a mask? Brandi was awarded full custody of their 2 children, Peyton, who was born deaf, and Cameron, who had faced kidney issues. She became a solo parent, rebuilding her life while still showing up for the cameras. She later admitted, "For years, I didn't have an identity. I was part of a duo, not a person." Now, she's finding that identity again, alone, strong, and louder than ever. Brandi's new life, new love, new mission. Brandi Passante is no longer just the girl from Storage Wars. In 2025, she's a mother, advocate, entrepreneur, and survivor. And perhaps for the first time in her public life, she's happy. After the fallout with Jared, Brandi kept a low profile. But in 2023, she introduced a new chapter and a new relationship. Clifford Beaver, a real estate agent and bar owner from Lake Forest, entered her life, and fans noticed an immediate change. On Instagram, they shared birthdays, vacations, and genuine laughter. The Brandi we saw wasn't just surviving, she was glowing. "You look free," one fan commented, "like you finally exhaled." Clifford brought not just love, but stability. Together, they blended families, raised kids, and supported each other's businesses. And when Brandi needed to speak out, he was right there beside her. In 2019, Brandi partnered with Women's Own Worth, a nonprofit for domestic abuse survivors. At their charity event, Wapalooza, she helped raise over $100,000 in one night. But this wasn't a publicity stunt. Brandi had lived through it. The control, the silence, the fear. Her advocacy came from experience. Still, she wasn't done reinventing. In June 2025, Brandi launched her podcast, The Real Reality with Brandi Passante. Unfiltered, sharp, emotional. It became a platform where she spoke not as a character, but as a real woman. She tackled life after fame, the cost of silence, and the pressures of raising kids while cameras rolled. And then came a mystery. In February 2025, Brandi posted a cryptic photo from inside a recording studio with the caption, "She back. Stay tuned." Fans flooded the comments. Was it music? A new show? Voiceover work? No one knew. But one thing was clear. Brandi was evolving. Again. And this time, she was in control. Legacy, money, and mystery. Projects. 15 years ago, Brandi and Jared walked into a storage unit with nothing but gut instinct and hope. Today, Brandi stands alone and stronger than ever. She's not just a reality star anymore. She's a brand, a survivor, and a rising media voice. By 2025, her estimated net worth is over $2 million. That includes her Storage Wars earnings, reportedly $15,000 per episode, which adds up to nearly $4 million across 260-plus episodes, plus income from thrift stores, spin-offs like Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job, merchandise lines, and public appearances. But the money was never the point. Brandi once said, "This was never about being famous. It was about building something when I had nothing." And she meant it. She didn't come from comfort. She clawed her way into success. And when life tried to tear it down, she rebuilt. Now, fans are waiting to see what she does next. Will the podcast lead to a book deal? A streaming series? A YouTube empire? With her storytelling ability, raw honesty, and loyal fan base, anything is possible. As for Storage Wars, Season 16 may not be the end, but the sun is setting. Viewership is steady, but the magic is shifting. The lockers may still hold secrets, but the real treasure was always the people. The battles, the losses, the transformations. And Brandi? She's no longer just a cast member. She's the legacy. From forgotten storage units to global screens, Brandi Passante has become the show's heart and its future. Fame, fortune, and failure. Storage Wars gave us all three, but behind every locker was a life, and behind every bid was a battle. As the dust settles in 2025, one thing is clear. The show may fade, but its legends remain. And their stories? They're still being written.